so happy to be here with Pranav Sood, who is visiting us from New York. And we are here to celebrate his new show called I Reap What I Sow. Thank you for being here. Yeah, absolutely. We had a wonderful opening last night. And I'm so glad, and I see some people joining us again, so thank you everyone for being here. I first met Pranav in 2019 when his work was on display at the Madison Museum of Contemporary Art's Triennial exhibition. His work was included in this prestigious exhibit while he was still a student working on his Master of Fine Arts degree from UW-Madison. I saw the paintings in that show, and I asked a friend of mine who was a curator to introduce me to the artist. The paintings were immediately impressive to me, and I believe that evening I invited Pranav to be in a group show that we were planning for the gallery. The response to his work was so positive, and it continues to this day. It began a great relationship, and now this show, I Reap What I Sow, is Pranav's third solo exhibit at the Abel Contemporary Gallery. Pranav received his MFA in painting from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2020. In 2023, Sood's work was curated at the Museum of Wisconsin Art among the 10 most exciting emerging artists from Wisconsin. His work has been written about in Hyperallergic Magazine, Bushwick Daily, Madison Essentials Magazine, the Wisconsin State Journal, Baraboo News Republic, the Capital Times, and the Isthmus. His work has recently become a part of the Hall Art Foundation in Vermont. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I always like to start these talks sometimes, especially when it's a new body of work, talking about the title and what that title means to you. So why is the title I Reap What I Sow?
Growing up, there's I remember there was one very popular saying in Hindi language called, it goes like this, Jo paoge, jo boge, wo paoge, which literally translates to you reap what you sow. And for me, it's really big thing because I believe that there are things in life which the decisions you take in life leads to consequences, and those consequences becomes outcomes, and that's how your life turns out to be. And I need to be very conscious about my decisions, and that's how I feel like my paintings are somewhat like a my paintings are somewhat like a manifestations which I make and want to achieve in life and to bring some positivity.
Yeah, well, it reminds me, we were talking about that. There's a piece here called, and for people who came in, there's still some chairs over here that you can't see. That can join us. That piece is called, remind me, I
Aspire nothing less.
Yeah, and I think that piece, when you were talking about that piece particularly, it reminded me of the title because you said it manifested a time that you had hoped would happen, right?
Yes, in 2022 when I got married and Herlene came over, before then I was living in the US for at least 7 years, and before that none of my family members or somebody from India ever visited one of my exhibitions or seen my work in person. So we were like talking, and what I thought I need being the manifestation about there would be a time when somebody like Herlene would be we would go on a red carpet, and there would be a moment where we would receive some big award or some big moment. And so I wanted to create a big scene out of in a canopy or a landscape where we are all dressed up very professionally for very black tie coat and everything, and we are receiving and enjoying that moment. And I think today that manifestation came true because she's attending the solo show here in Madison, where I lived for 3 years.
That's just right, yeah. Your work has been described as sort of unapologetically hopeful or positive, which I think you and I have maybe talked about this before. Sometimes in the the art world, I think artists really sort of trip over themselves to be full of angst and you know, everything has to be sort of dark and gloomy and brooding. And I think there's something really beautiful about your honesty in hopefulness, right? And finding the beauty in everything. And there's nothing sort of simple or trite about it. It's actually, the paintings themselves are complex, but I think your positiveness and your joy is actually really deep and complex and thoughtful and almost philosophical when I talk to you. Does that ring true to you?
Yes, like living in New York or living so much far away from my family, from India, like a place where you grew up, you know people, where you are like more comfortable and speaking a language which is not true to you, but then those things makes you feel nervous or makes you feel a little different, and then I feel whenever I look, I'm in my studio, I feel more comfortable, and I feel that's the place where I paint and I give myself a vision, myself some confidence to like, I need hopefulness, and the happiness of these paintings or the joy you see, the colors I bring, these are like kind of like inspiration for myself to like move along. I feel like these paintings are somewhat like chapters or like teaching ideas where whenever I see one or if I'm feeling a little down someday, I see them and I feel like, okay, that's what I was thinking. I went through this and I survived. So these paintings are somewhat like reminders to me, and that's how I feel like I don't want to show the darkness. There is darkness in everyone. There's something. Everybody's going through some problems. Something is happening in life, but the thread of hopefulness is what keeps us going, and that's what I try to promote in my paintings.
I know what you mean, because it's not, sometimes I'll talk to people about your work and I'll talk about this positive, sort of uplifting focus, manifestation of positive things. It's not that you don't ever have sadness or suffering, but, and it's not an easy thing to do as humans, to sort of, to try to just focus on positive, but if we can do that, that's kind of it's a wonderful thing. There's, so for people, some of you I know have been fans and are familiar with Pranav's work for many years, but for those of you who maybe are new to Pranav, his work, you're from Punjab, India originally, and you studied traditional oil painting, and you also studied Indian miniature painting, and that influences your work in a really interesting way. And what I love this mix of taking, in a way, it's almost sort of an immigrant experience too, right? Like you're taking things from your culture, mixing things in from your new culture, from your new home, and that makes it complex and so beautiful and rich. And but taking some of the ideas from traditional Indian miniature painting and then telling your own personal stories is really fabulous. So knowing that that's you in the painting art, and then you mix it in with these fantastical ideas. So rather than the Hindu god, it's some character that you've made. And I wish I had some images of some of these paintings that we're talking about if people aren't familiar with them. But the one thing I was thinking with some of these new paintings, over the years you've developed a way to stylize your humans, which we can call characters. And then some of these paintings, even there are all these other figures that are flowers or there's whatever they are. But recently, some of the animals have started to, in a very stylized way, be more representative of what real animals look like. So what's that about?
I guess this is like a mixing of like a real life thing. I try to like challenge myself to make something, and over the years I was trying to like deconstruct everything, like I grew up learning about miniature painting. I know about the culture, and then I moved here, and I was trying to make it more contemporary, more stylized, or more colorful, more nice. And then I was like I'm trying to deconstruct everything, and now I want to like rebuild everything into representation, like bringing a familiarity, concept of familiarity, some places in the painting. I think it also gives like for me it gives like a entry point that people are recognizing like, oh, there's a tiger or a deer, and then they are bringing their own concepts of tiger and deer, what's the relationship between, and then try to like superimpose that idea onto the bigger, larger imagery. Or like over here, you see everything is like very fantastical. Everything is very there's like a movement. There's a movement of colors. And there's like so many eyes. But then there's like a very bright little kitten like walking towards something, and that thing just you can like I feel like those things are like resting points. I know those the paintings are like super bright and super like you can stay with them, but then for the eyes to just be not getting confused with the whole scene, you can actually enjoy one thing which is like very familiar to you, and you don't need to like think about it too much, and you can just say, okay, even like a little kid can say, this is a cat, and that gives like everyone a little thing to start looking at the painting and then use their imagination to build on it.
Yeah, it's great. There's three very large square paintings in this show. The one behind us, and then that one, and the one we were talking about earlier, which I think, Pranav, are just stunning. And there's a lot going on. I just feel like I could look at them for hours and hours and discover new things. But I know what you mean. It's like then there's this deer that's sort of stylized in a realistic way. Doesn't have any pattern on it, so it does become a resting spot, right? So, what does I know that everything you've done means something. So, what does the tiger represent, and then why is the tiger there, and then he's also on a flag?
So like growing up, like I remember like the tigers represent the pride. Like India is known for their tigers, and tigers are pride, and deers are fragile, and these are like the concepts which I try to like bring in to the idea of like the hustle, like the when you are like working towards your goal, when you are like you want something, you have the idea that I want to reach someplace. Like I, for a long time, I had this inspiration to be in New York, and I went there. And there was like times when you are trying to like reach to the to places, when you are trying to like find money, where like how to pay rent, all this like how to like pay your credit cards. Like these things, these natural things makes you feel like, okay, this is a little hard, this is a big hustle, and sometimes you have to be like stand up and be a tiger, or sometimes you have to be like a prey and let it happen, and you can just sit down and like calm yourself. But all this like circle of like being prey and predator at the same time, like and hustling for a long period of time, eventually leads to the big moment of receiving that trophy. And I was trying to like even the big flag person, the flag character is like holding a big flag, showing that the hustle will win. The idea of like you're working hard, that would pay off, and it is. So they're like rising up and high, and everybody is like remembering those days when you are like just sleeping with your dreams on, and you're like thinking about like that day would come, and when it actually arrives, you actually remember all those days and share with your loved ones, or the ones who were there, who have seen it all with you. So I aspire nothing less is that moment you aspire for, which never comes, but sometimes in life there are moments when you actually find those solace spaces, and you feel that I have arrived, and then the next day you start again, you dream again, and the whole journey begins again.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Um, One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. the pieces are so absolutely complete and meticulously crafted that I think sometimes when work is that beautifully crafted, it's almost you kind of forget that it's the work, the labor that goes into it. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how you create these pieces. So when you're starting to do any one of these paintings, from a small piece to a large piece, do you do preliminary sketches first? Do you have an idea in your head? Do you have, then do you sketch on the canvas? Do you have an idea of what the colors are going to be? Is there any part of it that's, how do you even begin?
So, and going to work in New York, that's a commute. It takes long hours to reach where you need to go. So I need to have a sketchbook, have crayons, sketch a pencil, and whenever I'm sitting, it's okay. So I don't know how many people visit New York, but when I was there, first I was listening to podcasts, and then in subway stations you don't get the internet connections, and then there's crowd. The subway stations and the trains are super crowded. There are people, so people are trying to avoid glances, and I think that's the time when you actually sketchbook comes so handy because now I don't have to see people or people are not talking to me. I can just sketch. So that time I can think about ideas or whatever coming up. I'm just without filter. I'm just sketching. But after the whole day, when I come back and I'm in my studio, I try to look over. Sometimes some sketches make sense, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes their characters, they come together, form a story, and I try to form a story based on what's happening in my life or what I want. Those things start the idea, but then most of the time I sketch on the canvas,
Okay.
and those sketches become something with time because I let the painting live because it takes so much time. A painting this size will take 3 to 4 weeks, and I don't know where this painting is going in terms of colors or patterns. They come. I feel everything is interactive, so once something is going on, I see other colors and I see other things, and they build on top of each other, and there are multiple layers of color, multiple things. That leads to a painting. But then the idea of being so crisp and so clean comes from at least something should be my way. Something should be clean and should be organized because life seems sometimes messy, and I have the control in my studio and I can do whatever I want and I can make it messy. I can play with it. I can make it refined, and coming from Indian miniature style, it informs me to have it's almost Buddhist or very Zen to just sit and don't be in a hurry to finish something. So you're taking your time, making everything fine, and I think that adds to the whole idea of the painting, what I try to create.
So you might have all of the whole composition drawn out, but you don't know what the color palette is going to be until you start, and then you just make decisions based on what you've just done.
Yes, they just I sometimes start with a color, and it comes interactive. Sometimes one painting is finished, and in the meantime, in the way I make a new color, and that new color becomes the first color for the next painting, and from there I find more new colors, which builds on and off to create something new. Some of these paintings do have airbrush, and I was really excited to use airbrush, and that just just to learn how to use it. I've used it in the past, but then how airbrush would make sense in my work, that's a challenge, and that's something interesting and something which I want to explore. And with each piece, I learn something new. I see how different colors work and how I can make them more complicated, or how it can give a really transparent gradation or transparent depth into the painting. you're just having fun in the studio, and like I feel like I'm just building on top of each other, and that's how the stories keep on going. It's like
Yeah.
storyboard.
The colors in these are, like, your work has always been colorful. I feel like these are especially like, wow, like just. I mean, was that easy? Did you feel like they're more bright than normal?
They're very bright.
Yeah. I mean this in a really good way. Like, it was so fun installing the show and having it just be like.
Yes, they weren't that bright in my studio. I was trying to make the painting brighter as possible for my studio, and I have good like 100 watts, like big white lights, and still they were not like that bright. And here even there's like an ambience to it. They look so bright, and I feel when I saw them yesterday for the first time after such a long time, I was like, they are bright.
You succeeded.
Yeah.
How big is your studio? Is it hard? I'm assuming you don't have like a giant. No one in New York has. I mean, unless some people have giant studios, but
It has like a one big wall,
yeah.
and where I can actually start like two paintings at one time. And I actually have a studio. I had a studio in the past where it was like all dedicated,
Yeah.
but then I have this tendency to just live in my studio. So later I decided like let's have a bigger apartment and have like more space to storage.
Yeah.
So now I have like a 2-bedroom apartment where we live, and I have a studio. I use all my living room, bedroom, and everything for my storage because I don't like to keep my paintings on the ground. And I do have like another big space in my basement where I store smaller works. And it's also good because like if somebody's over, then I can show them and they are ready to view, and they feel like more like a space, like a gallery display.
So you have an apartment, but it's really your studio.
Yes.
That's funny. So you moved to New York, and you always had this dream to move to New York. How is the reality compared to the dream? And I know it's been a hard thing, but how do you, as an artist, I always think it's interesting. I think people don't always understand how artists sort of scrape together a living, because that's a very interesting thing I like to talk to you about. So, did you go to New York and do you have to have a part-time job? In addition to doing your painting, how is it that you start to network with people? I know recently that you just finished a large mural project. So, how have you been able to, piece this together? That's a big question.
I moved to like New York in pandemic 2020. I was like a grad student in Wisconsin. I had a visa, and after grad school, I had just 1 year to like live the dream or do something with it. So, and then there was pandemic, and I was like, if I just don't do anything, then nothing will happen. I won't get like another few years. So I just made a call. New York opened for like in August. I moved there the third day. I booked like an apartment. I booked their studio. I moved there, and then it was pandemic, and you have to stay inside. So I was mostly staying in my studio, which is nice. People were saying it's not a good call, but New York was cheaper then because people were moving out and I moved in. I was thinking it like the subway station is stopped and it's empty and I can just board it without pay. So just go there and see. And also because nobody had nobody can talk to people or meet. So for me, it was like an advantage because I can text people on Instagram and ask for a video chat, and they were like open and for online video chat calling. So I used that for my advantage to meet people, and everybody was getting excited to get over the pandemic and then actually meet in person. So, and in 2021, I did like a show in Spring Break art show. It's like an art fair for curators, and I knew that that's like a big September opening thing for like newcomers, and it's people come and they see, and they're like galleries, they're like curators you can meet. It's a good opportunity opportunity. So I took a chance and applied for a solo booth with a curator and managed to got like one room, showed like 6 paintings, got met so many new people, made connections. I stayed there for like 6 to 7 days, all day. I was not leaving my booth because like somebody would come and I would lose them. So I was trying to like talk to everyone, not eating. But then there was like a show in Shanghai I got from there, and I shipped the painting to Shanghai. It was like such a big moment. And from there, I found somebody contacted me for like a big scale mural project for a brand new school in Manhattan and a permanent collective for the permanent collection of public school for Manhattan. And I was excited, but then I was also thinking like, how? And but I grabbed the opportunity. They asked for like different paperwork, like presentation of like a proposal, what you wanna make, how can you use this space, and after like 5 to 6 different proposals, different changes, after 3 years, now it's finally complete. And now I have a mural in the City of Murals in New York.
And because I was in New York, it was almost going to be installed, but then it got delayed, and so I didn't get to see it. I will the next time I'm there. But where did you work on it? Because it wasn't, when you said it's not finished yet.
It just
So it's a huge thing.
idea was like to make it permanent. So we were like find like the best material which can be permanent. And I always there was like this the first time I actually moved to New York on 42nd Street Avenue. There was this big mural by Roy Lichtenstein, and if you know his work, I'm really inspired from his work, like colorful lines, diagonal lines, and abstract. So I saw his big mural for 42nd Street and station. So I thought I need to like see where he made it. So there's like a fabricators in Seattle I found, and they make these beautiful porcelain enamel, custom made, custom colors. And I worked with them and gave them my designs, refined them, and they fabricated it for me, and then they shipped it. It was like each panel was 150 pounds heavy, and they were using like big suction cups and 8 people to actually hold it and like install it. So I was like, even somebody wants to steal it, they can't. They need it. So it's definitely very permanent. So and I was doing, this is not just me, there were like 21 different artists. It was like a big program from New York Cultural Affairs, and they provide funding for artists. And they worked with me for like last 3 years and 20 other artists for 20 different new brand new schools. And for me, it was a big opportunity because some of those artists I knew from Instagram, and I've been to their solo shows in New York, and I always admired. And being part of that cohort, I was just humbled. I was like, how this is happening, and I'm happy to be part of that.
Manifested. Oh, that's great. Yeah, public art, wow, it can be, you don't always realize how much work goes into it.
But on the other side, when you mentioned the life in New York, like you're having all this in one side and it's stretching for like 3 years, and on the other side you have to do the financing for your house, you have to like buy more paints and everything. Then you have to do like the part-time jobs, and you have to work with like different artists, different like I started like art handling job with a company. I started as a freelancer to like pack the artworks and assist them to hang the paintings, but then it changed to like a warehouse kind of job. There's this big company called Bobo, which means precious egg. And when I went there on a freelance job, I saw like it's like an art bank. I didn't know that people store their art in such fancy spaces. And I was like, I need to be there. I need to like work. I applied the next day. I got in, and now I get a chance to like work with like so many different galleries, so many different museum people, conservators to help them, assist them with what their needs. But during the time, you hear the stories of the great artists from like Europe, like Picasso's and like you Basquiat's, and you get a chance to like see and learn about their things which even in the books you might not read. So that's fascinating part. But then you gives you money to like pay off bills and also the time to make art. And it's like it's a whole routine. You do that every day.
No, that's great. Okay, I want to talk about one more specific painting, and then we're going to open it up for questions from the audience. There's a painting over here, which is one of my favorites in the show, with the yellow, and I can't think of the name of it right now.
I have plenty to share.
Yeah. So I want to hear the story. There's if you're sitting over here, there's a little yellow figure, a little yellow guy. His head is open. He's got 3 eyes. There's a bird in his head. There's a green bird flying over him. There's a snake that turns into a tiger. Then there's a bunch of other people. There's another snake wrapped around his leg. What's going on?
There's an interesting story. I don't know if I hope everybody listens to it. There was like a big fight in my neighborhood. Like doesn't do so. There was like a fight between me and like two neighbors for our parking spot in the backyard.
This is a photo.
Okay. So
I'm so glad I asked.
So they like one family is like with kids and they have to like pick up and drop their kids every day, and then the other are like come late at home and couldn't find parking late night. So both of them asked me can they use my parking spot, and I said yes to both of them in different times. But then this yes became a problem for both of them because one started parking there and the other one is like, I can't back up my car and go out of the alley to pick up my kids and I'm getting late. That's a problem. And she came to me running and she complained to my landlord, and landlord is saying you have to take the decision. And I talked to both parties, and one party is saying they should learn how to back up the car backwards, like wide space. And me and Helene were sitting that night. We took like a whole evening talking about this, or probably like the next day, and everybody's asking for like a decision. And I said, I felt we are trying, like it's a Polish community. There are like different people, and most of the time we don't talk much like in the neighborhood. Like people are nice, but then you are trying to be friendly with everyone, and that's why I said yes. I know I'm paying for it, but I said yes without asking for money. So still there was a problem. So I was in the idea of like, what should I do and how can I be nice with them, because these are the two neighbors who talk to me, and I don't want to like come make something bad out of this. So I painted this like big like this painting about like a character, yellow character, super bright, holding like fruits coming out of the tree, and it's like such on a pedestal, like because I felt like I was on a pedestal. I have to like take a big decision, and I had this like big tree of fruits, and the tree is like almost full. It's keep on replenishing, and I have this like 3 hands like gesturing and coordinating with people who are asking for fruits, and some people have like a bucket of like full of fruits and still asking for another one, and I'm coordinating with them. And then there's like other people who are happy, some people are like sad, and there's a big snake of lion who's like watching all over the scene. And I feel at that moment I have plenty to share with people, and how can I be neutral with everyone so I can keep the relationship going and not hurt somebody's feeling, because both of the reasons were valid, but at the same time it was my parking spot.
I love it. No, it's beautiful because it's a parable for life, you know. Oh, that's so brilliance of artists. They can take like what we might think of the most mundane experiences in our lives and make them most beautiful. You can find inspiration in anything to make art. That's what I take from that.
Well, we need to know what the decision was, though.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, you started it, we gotta finish it.
so the neighbors with the kids, because I like those kids and they play with me. They used to come and go to school on time. So.
Good choice.
But eventually everybody went happy and kind of like they settled on the idea that they need to like use the space wisely and the neighbors from upstairs, I told them like, okay, you can park there only after like midnight if you couldn't find the spot, but try to find the spot because we have 2 spots outside our apartment and you have 2 cars. We don't have a car, so you use those spots then, but things worked out.
Thank you.
That was a great question. that starts the question. Does anybody else have any questions for Pranav?
I'll have another one.
Great.
Could you help us understand, a number of your pieces have what appear to be trophies, which represent
Manifested achievement. The idea of trophy started from this painting.
Yeah, she's got a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it's like from a time when I lost the job, and it felt like, okay, how I had the money, but then I have like money for like next 2 months to like pay off like the credit cards and the house, and rent is expensive. So I was getting a little worried after like the first month, and then I was like, I need a plan. So I started making this painting, and I started this painting after like a long series of smaller paintings. So I thought I will stay with this for like next a month or 2, and that would give me like finally to find the right answer. And the trophies came at the very last. Like they were not art, but then I wanted something that the character to be holding. Like she has like three eyes, looks very happy, is very smiling, very calm, at the same time wise. But then there were like trophies came at like I don't know if it's a thing here, but like in India people have like a whole cupboard of trophies and they like show off when people come over. So but it almost becomes an idea of like, do we work for trophies, or trophies are just like a feeling where that motivate us to like do something more. Like you achieve a little one and you are like, let's do another one. So like little trophies are like the idea that every day I will wake up, I will have my cup of coffee, I will start my studio day, I will do a little part in my painting, I will try to like look at my finances, I will like sit down to apply for new jobs. Those things, every little thing, if I achieve those 10 things, that means 10 trophies, and I have to celebrate every day, little by little. And in like next 3 months, by the time I actually found the job, and that's where I'm working now, and this seems really nice. So every painting gives me like a buffer to like sit down rather than stress out and like keep running around to like ask for help. Instead, I sit down and start painting, and the ideas and things start getting better. And this gives me a hopeful idea that I just need to survive, and I need to like keep making, and the survival is the key. And every day, day by day, I just need to get better and work on myself, and things will get better. It's like I never ever thought that I would be in New York or in US or working here or showing off here or doing this artist talk ever. And this everything is a dream come true. And it's just because of what I like to paint, and that helps me. It's kind of a therapy.
I was wondering, you mentioned that the trophies weren't part of the original composition. How much pre-planning do you do in your paintings? Are you doing a big sketch to sort of set the composition, or are you building it as you go?
So there are like little nuggets I can share with this painting which I remember. There was no tiger. There was like a big tree in the back. There was like an elephant in the center, and then there was this. So the idea was to like create a landscape, like where like a character is sitting in a big rectangular architectural space coming from, and it's like very gigantic. It's even bigger than the elephant itself, and then there was like a flower doing like a pointy hand, like a directional hand, and saying everything gonna be all right with a peace sign. But then I was making like the patterns for the flower, the green patterns, and then there was like a large space, it's a big canvas, and then I thought, why to use it just with like one pattern? Why not to use to give a little message which I feel because it's kind of unlocking. There's like if you see closely, you would find like a lock and key, and then on the other side where the directional hand is, there's a lock which is open, and then there's a trophy in the right feet, and it's like those. It's like a big chakra. It's like the life where you find the key, you unlock it, and you find the direction, and you walk. So that's how everything is meticulous. It just comes with time. You have that space, and you can play with it, and you need to be meaningful about it. So things happen, and I try to like. Even the elephant is like very serene and blue, because elephants. I have sat on an elephant, or been to. I've seen so many elephants in India that they're like very very nice. You can actually touch them, and they don't say anything, and they're very friendly. So I wanted to capture that moment with like, and in the whole painting, with the whole chaos of patterns and colors, the elephant is standing calm and just passing by as if nothing is happening around.
Yes.
I'm curious, you said that you started playing with airbrush. So where is airbrush showing up in these paintings?
Yes, that's the best part. It's like it's there, but I use the airbrush in a way that it just gives you like a little depth. Like I like to keep the painting as flat as possible, like as if the scenes are just in your face, so you can jump around characters. But in some of the paintings,
So point to us, where might there be airbrush?
you can experience airbrush like here, there, like here.
So that's some of the ombre effects.
The ombre effect comes with the airbrush.
So you would have to separate the rest of the painting and make sure that airbrush doesn't get other places, maybe.
Yes, you have to like tape it up or use newspapers and around. So you have that little spot, and then you have to like mix the airbrush, put it there, and let it sit for like hours so it doesn't peel off. And then you have to like move to another space. So you have like pre-planned everything for that part, and the airbrush is kind of the last thing you do, so you don't have to like wait for very long.
Do you use a lot of screens or tape, or it seems like your edges are so perfect. So you must. I'm imagining you're taping things.
Yes, I use a lot of tape. Even I buy material from Black, and they say like every time you come, you buy most of it. I buy like bulk and like tens of them, like every size, and they go pretty quick. And I use a lot of tape, and it's a lot of fixing, a lot of things, and then they like bleed. It's a
I was gonna say, because even if you tape, it bleeds under, so you're probably having to go back.
you have to go back and fix them again, like with the colors. You have to like go back and forth, and especially like the big paintings, the tape areas are like just the lines, and everything else is like hand painted. I was like with the big one because I needed time to spend. I was trying to avoid the tape and just use it like freehand, because I was also like patching like areas for the airbrush. So I was like, it's gonna take forever, and I don't like the tape, but I have no other choice.
Can I ask, Is there a story with the little red tree guy peeking out of the corner there? That's probably my favorite part of that painting. Is just that happiest little face there.
It's a mango tree, but it's like mango eyes, like the joy of actually feeling everything is going well. Like it's a like there's like a mango man in India, which means a common man,
Okay.
and these are like mango eyes. Like it's like kind of trying to be very happy and jolly and kind of cheerful to like see what's happening.
He looks very happy.
Yeah, they're like the little eyebrows on the like the stem.
Yeah, that's great.
It seems like after you got married, Colleen started showing up in your paintings. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes, I did like a whole series about like honeymooners and like everything is blowing and blooming and happy and nice because we were like waiting for that moment for such a long time that finally we had a home and we loved it and we had a new routine and we like recently we started like did like a video call and we were like we haven't done it in a while. It's been like 2 years that we haven't talked on a video call, which was everyday thing then. And so the other paintings are like very romantic and happy things because I felt like even the New York, the house, the backyard, everything started blooming. It was like summer and winter.
That's so sweet. You have a muse.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, this is a great place to end the conversation with such joy. Thank you so much. The show is really exceptional. The show is up through November 3rd. I'm so glad you all joined us. If Pranav doesn't have to run out now, you can chat with him a little bit. And thank you.
If you stay for a moment, I would love to take a picture. I love this and I love to capture.
Okay, I'm going to turn the